discussion on the motion. Randy, what can we discuss on this motion as far as discussion on the motion?
Oh yeah, there can be open discussion on this motion.
I'll say at this point, I'm disappointed that we're dealing with this issue tonight based on the motion that concluded the December 17th meeting. It may be that we are bound by the 90-day time period. At the time that motion was made, there was a discussion period as well. There was staff available who could have advised us of the reason that that motion, the substance of that motion couldn't be honored. Nothing was said at that time. There's only been one abbreviated meeting, informational meeting since then, and by abbreviated I mean the time for speaking and questioning and answering was artificially limited, and it did not allow for addressing many of the questions that surround this project for the entire community, not only the people who are here. I'd like to review something about the Plan Commission's protocol. Members of the Plan Commission are appointed and willing to serve. The position requires no experience of any sort, and there's no training provided by the city, and I personally did not receive any orientation when I was appointed. I was given, and I believe everyone else was given, a copy of the city's zoning code and the comprehensive plan for reference. As specific issues appear on our agendas, members are referred to the applicable section of the zoning code and the comprehensive plan. With each issue presented for consideration and action, staff prepares a description of the issue, supporting documentation which may include an application, an executive summary evaluating the question and suggesting possible solutions, and a recommendation. Meetings allow members to ask questions of staff and each other, request additional information, take testimony, deliberate among themselves, and take appropriate action. For this procedure to be effective, information and materials provided to Commission members must be complete. In the instance of the Sawyer Hotel Development LLC's proposed development, the application as it was presented in November of 2014 was missing certain pieces of information. And I will tell you what those pieces were that I know of. There may be others, but I can tell you which pieces were not provided to me as a member of the Plan Commission. The 100-year floodplain limits, wetlands and drainage courses, a topographic map showing the 2-foot contour intervals after development. I'm abbreviating this. The traffic impact analysis, which can be waived by the city engineer, but nonetheless, anytime that we are given incomplete information or reduced information, when changes are proposed during the development process, and I can't think of a time that a developer has not come back and asked for changes, we have no basis to compare the proposed changes to the foundation plan. We did not receive proof of ownership, the conceptual stormwater management plan, conceptual utilities plan, and the issue that I am, there are a number of others, impervious surface coverage, transportation facilities, landscaping plan we see, but the scale and the temporary nature of all the drawings don't really allow us to evaluate what's really being proposed. Covenants and restrictions for ownership, final engineering plans, including grade, utilities, and stormwater management plan. Now, I have to think that many of these things were presented to staff with the application, and I hope that's true, but I can tell you that the Plan Commission, my packet, did not contain them. Regarding proof of ownership, we know that the city owns the property. We know that the city is not the petitioner for the PUD. The explanation offered for that anomaly is that A, the Waterfront Redevelopment Authority has an exclusivity agreement with Sawyer Hotel, and B, it is the intention of the city to sell to Sawyer. Therefore, we can disregard the fact that the applicant is not the owner and proceed as if it were. The inclusion in tonight's agenda packet of Mr. Pappy's statement that he is the sole member of the LLC, information provided, though late, is a partial response to the request for complete information. Mr. Pappy asks in his response email to Mr. Olenichik that the Plan Commission, quote, follow the state statute and not base any decision on form of ownership. He offers his attorney, Jim Smith, partner of our own city attorney, as a resource if we need to look up the statute. I point out to Mr. Pappy that state statute requires that the LLC form of ownership requires the disclosure that we have asked for. The purpose of proof of ownership is, among other things, to provide background on the developer so that we know who we're dealing with, that what their credentials are, and we can evaluate their ability to fund the project for which they seek very expensive consideration from the city. No one expects that the sole member, Mr. Pappy, will be funding this project personally. There will necessarily be other financial participants in the project, but this application does not disclose who those entities might be so that we can evaluate the level of the risk the city is being asked to assume. Thus, we are being asked to set aside a magnificent piece of publicly owned property without any assurance that the developer will be able to perform. Without complete information enumerated in our own zoning code, as I referred to moments ago, we will not have the basis for evaluating those inevitable proposed changes. The missing information may have been disclosed in closed sessions of the WRA or the City Council. If so, it has not been shared with the Plan Commission. We must not approve a proposal that has not earned the term plan. It is not a plan. Yeah. And that does not show even the prospect of success. Further, we cannot disregard the fact that the city is engaging in contract zoning, which is a violation of its own zoning code. Contract zoning is zoning change effected with the specific intention of conveying the rezoned property to a specific buyer whose purposes require that specific zoning change. We must not participate in that violation. If we are not fully informed, we cannot act on an application. If council chooses to proceed, I encourage them to carefully consider the nature of spot and contract zoning. Consider the definition of a PUD and what it is intended to accomplish for the city as a whole, not just for a few. Consider the burdens already borne by the citizens for the existing TIF districts and whether it is conscionable to ask citizens to assume the financial burden for enhancements they do not want, which serve a development they do not want, which purports to serve a market that does not exist. They did state that although their original recommended plan included a hotel, it was always much smaller than the subject of this application. As a part of tonight's packet, we have received a summary of the aforementioned informational meeting held on January 15th. And Plan Commission members, I refer you to the final paragraph. Of Vanderwall's summation, and it's entitled Next Steps. In spite of the best intentions and efforts of the city, redevelopment authority, consultants, and other partners, public sentiment at this time demands a greater degree of scrutiny for all private development proposals for the West Waterfront. A more transparent system of information sharing and citizen engagement, which may include additional public input sessions, surveys, economic impact and market analysis, developer and retail recruitment efforts, could contribute to an improved public perception of the site and that their collective voice is being heard. This is the city's own consultant on whom we have spent a large amount of money already. So I encourage us to either listen to them or stop wasting our money on them. The speed with which this project is being pushed through the process and the failure to provide adequate disclosure has clouded the project with doubt and concern. A project of this magnitude in a city of this small size should be carefully examined so that the developer and the citizens are confident of being well served by the city's own regulations. The purpose of a closed session, according to the Wisconsin Department of Justice, must be narrowly defined, and with only the rare exception, the resulting vote should take place in open session. This has been the disregarded advice of our own city attorney. In light of the limited information we've been allowed to review, we cannot be sure that the developer can perform, nor that the city and its citizens will be adequately protected. Without further study and greater transparency, we cannot in good conscience recommend that City Council approve the combined preliminary final application for this PUD.